Will the Los Angeles median home price set a new all-time record this summer? That's a question we're answering in this week's Los Angeles Real Estate Update. Here's where we're going to start our analysis by looking at the current median sale price of a home in Los Angeles. We're sitting right at $899,000. Coincidentally, exactly where we were this week in 2022. 2022 is when we hit the all-time high median home price for Los Angeles at $910,000. So the question is 2024 going to follow that trajectory, or is it possible we might fall a little below it? We got to dig a little deeper into the data to see what the data is telling us will happen. And yes, this week's update is a slightly different format than last week's update. And look, I have this cool green screen thing going on. I'm going to figure out these weekly updates as I make them. They're just going to get better and better, so stay tuned. And of course, we have to start here with what's happening nationally in terms of interest rates and mortgage applications. Rates were real high October of last year. They fell down to the mid-sixes beginning of this year, but have since climbed right back up to the current average 7.17%. And that has kept our purchase index, this is the relative number of people who are applying for loans to purchase a house, has kept it exceptionally low at 144. In other words, demand is anemic. It continues to be anemic because rates have gone back up north of 7%. And in the face of this anemic demand, we see that new listings have been climbing for the last 3 weeks here in Los Angeles. New listings, of course, leads to more inventory, which should bring down pricing, especially with these high interest rates. But when we hop over to homes sold, we see that homes sold has also been on a tear the past few weeks. So as a result, active listings has actually been on the decline for the past couple weeks. Active listings is an interesting story because we started the year way below where we were last year in 2023. Then for most of the year, active listings climbed compared to last year, peaked in March, and since then we've seen active listings decline. And we have a similar story when we look at weeks supply. Again, the orange line is this year, the blue line is 2023. We started the year more supply constrained than last year, then caught up right there, but now we're back just underneath where we were last year in terms of weeks supply of inventory. And this is really the primary question. We've already established that demand is anemic. Demand really can't get much lower. Every year, some number of people change jobs or get married or are having kids and just need to buy a house. And we're already at that level. So the big question is, what is supply going to do? If supply gets constrained, prices are going to climb. We need to see supply grow to have some price relief this summer. What's really interesting to me is what home sellers have been doing in response to this supply situation. If we look at price drops, check this out. There's typically a price drop peak in February. You can see it every year for the past 4 years. In February, home prices are at their lowest, and you really have just the most desperate sellers still trying to unload their homes that they probably listed in December or before. Most home purchases happen in the spring, summer, and the very beginning of fall. It's kind of a dead market come February. Now, most years, you see that after that February peak of price cuts decline, at least a little bit, going into the spring. That's because new inventory shows up, but more importantly, new buyers show up. However, check out what happened in 2024. We had our usual kind of February peak, but then price cuts began to climb. Why are sellers cutting prices? Well, because there's more inventory on the market. And after a couple of years of having it really good, it seems like sellers have begun to get nimble and have begun to realize that if they list a property and it doesn't sell in a week or 2 or 3, clearly there's not a buyer at that price. It's time to lower the price to attract the buyer. And this is the kind of behavior one hopes to see in the face of rates climbing. Sellers who, sure, they're trying to get top dollar for their property, but they're nimble, they understand how the market works, and so we see these price cuts growing at a time of year when they shouldn't. Now, you may think this is the first sign of a coming crash, but not really, because these price cuts have managed to keep the housing market very fast. We can see here that 2024 is moving a lot faster than last year. The average days on market, in fact, is 33.5, whereas last year at this time we were at 38.2. So by cutting prices, sellers are getting their homes sold. And that's keeping the market fast. A fast market is a competitive market. Additionally, if we take a look at average sale to list ratio, we see that these price cuts are leading us to outperform 2023. 2023, of course, is this blue line. And a year ago, homes were selling at an average 100.2% of what they're being listed for. Whereas now, in 2024, homes are selling at an average of 101.3% of what they were listed for. Now, it's important to keep in mind that this metric, average sale to list ratio, does not account for price cuts. So if you list a house at $1 million and 3 weeks later you cut the price to $950,000 and someone comes along and buys it for $950,000, that's considered a 100% list to sale price ratio, because at the time the property sold, the list price, the sale price was 100% of what that list price was at the time of sale. So this doesn't account for the price drops, but what it shows us is that the nimbleness of sellers is paying off, that they are lowering prices to something that's more reasonable. And actually, oh, what a tech error here. Let me fix this. As I was saying, sellers are not only getting the prices they want, they're getting about 3% more than the prices they want after doing their price cuts. So we have mixed signals here. We have a market that is showing signs perhaps that inventory is going to start to grow, but we also have a market that is still moving faster and selling hotter than last year. To see into the future, the best metric we can go to is pending sales. And what we see is that pending sales has been on the decline for 4 straight weeks. Now, a property becomes pending before it is sold. Pending means a property is under contract and the sale is pending. So the number of pending sales indicates how many sold homes we'll have in about a month. When pending sales goes down, you can expect fewer home sales moving forward. So if the trend of new listings continues to grow, and the trend of home sales actually begins to decline, we'll see more inventory, we'll see some price relief this summer. Of course, a lot of this depends on how home sellers and home buyers are going to respond to rates in the next couple months. The expectation is that rates will continue to be somewhat elevated, as it looks like the Fed is going to push back their rate cuts to later in the year, hopefully some point this year, but maybe even 2025. So the question is, with rates higher, is that going to dissuade buyers from getting into the market? Is that going to dissuade sellers from selling their home, which means that they have to get back into the market? Where is this going to go? To figure it out, we got to keep tracking the data, so tune in next week for next week's Los Angeles Real Estate Update.